We're going to start with the background of my original position, of my original understanding of Habermas' position. Habermas talked about three components that make up our worldview. Kind of the state and the economy, which are systems, and the life world, which is really our human social world. Habermas was concerned that we were continually advantaging the strategies associated with the systems components, like focusing on and prioritizing factors like cost-benefit, efficiency, and performance, to the detriment or exclusion of the strategy associated with the life world, which is about human residence or care. He felt that the life world is losing its voice in the discourse. So let's dive a little deeper into Habermas' thinking and see if our analysis is accurate. We start with the worldview model and note that Habermas talks about three types of statements. Statements about the external world, or the is, along with statements about the inner world, or what ought to be. We're really not going to talk very much about either of those two. The statements that we're going to focus on are the statements that are most important for the polity, and they're the social world statements. They're the statements about when we're connecting with other people. Statements that attempt to reconcile what is now our multicultural worldview. Habermas feels that these statements need to produce a workable set of prohibitions, permissions, and positive obligations, and that under the right conditions, this is possible. Right. Let's take an example. Okay, a working example of this is the International Olympic Committee, where there's 206 nations come together with a common set of rules for a wide variety of circumstances, including hard rules for who's the fastest in a race, subjective rules for things like figure skating, and flexible rules for races where the conditions of the environment change for later contestants like downhill skiing. The 206 nations have also come together to address how to challenge and abdicate issues. All right? Along with the rules are flexible, and they are constantly being evaluated for changing conditions. This seems like a good model for a multicultural democratic polity. So we have an example that we can possibly start with. Now, what does Habermas have to say about the values that need to be associated with the social world statements? As we have already noted, they are complex, meaning they're ever-changing and flexible statements. So Habermas suggests that the values contain four major criteria. The first is the truth claims about the empirical world itself. All right, that rightness claims about the treatment we owe each other as persons. The whole idea the idea of care it has to be included and integrated into it. Authenticity claims about what the good life really is, what the ends should be, good meaningful ends that are related to us, to our species, to our humanness, that resonate with us. Technical and pragmatic claims about the means suitable to different goals. All right, so the idea here is that the means are different based upon the goals. You don't build a system where you have a one-size-fits-all. That's not what we're after. That's not what will work. Habermas recognizes that with multicultural complexity, we get a plethora of diversity that brings with it substantial bias. All right? So his recommendations for dealing with the bias is that we use these four major presuppositions in the formulation of the statements themselves. One, that no one capable of making a relevant contribution has been excluded. Number two, all participants have equal voice. There's not one dominant voice, and that the conversation can be different with each one. Right? Number three, all are free to speak their honest opinion without deception or without self-deception. Number four is that there are no sources of coercion built into the process and procedures of the discourse itself. No walls. All paths are equally free to pursue. So there's no wall built in the middle there that stops somebody from in the procedure itself. Right? So all of these presuppositions and statements are evaluated based on their two major things: their social merit worthiness, and do they warrant cooperative action. So it's worth and cooperation are two of the big issues when we look at our values and our ends. Once the values and ends have been established, Habermas takes on issues associated with the policies designed to deliver worth and cooperation. Consistently throughout his writing, he emphasizes the need to understand that all of these policies must be delivered in a complex society, with all of the ramifications associated with complexity, including unpredictability, modifying after and assessing the outcomes, multi-dimensions, and multi-dependencies. All right. Again, if we take our example, the metaphor of the Olympics, the issues associated with what kinds of shoes are accepted, what type of pull for the pole vault, how to keep things fair for delivering worth and worthwhileness. Habermas talks of this as governing using countersteering. All right, where we countersteer administrative power, and it's just like revisiting our recognized successful strategy for complexity. So the question then becomes, how do we deliver this cooperative worthiness and still protect the individual? For Habermas, the answer is that we start with reasonable, actionable individual rights. So we start with the individual, so we focus with the individual. But then we have to start to temper that. We temper that with what are public rights, all right? Because if you take a simple civil example of public rights, like an individual can't decide that they're going to go on red and when all the rest of us are using red as a stoplight, right? Then we have global rights that also have to be tempered and also are used to temper the individual because the individual lives in a global world. We have other species rights because we shouldn't be on the planet doing everything just for ourselves. And then we have the planet's rights itself, that we shouldn't be damaging the planet. We shouldn't be basically making the planet unlivable. So this takes us back to my original background position and the emphasis on the need to bridge the gap between the systems and the life world. But Habermas is not really proposing a bridge. He's really proposing a complete integration of the relationship where all statements of value and policy and include dialogue and about worth and care at every step. So it's not just something like adding a care tax to the systems idea. We are integrating care and worth into all social world statements. Thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful.